Spoiler alert for Tears of the Kingdom. Breath of the Wild's mysterious Zonai tribe saw its role greatly expanded upon in Tears of the Kingdom. As it turns out, they weren't merely an ancient barbaric tribe lost to obscurity, but, alongside with early Hylians, they were the very founders of the Kingdom of Hyrule. The first ever royal family of Hyrule was King Rauru, a Zonai himself, and his wife Queen Sonia, a Hylian. One thing that stood out to Zelda fans is that, despite Tears of the Kingdom's Zonai being the progenitors to the ones we learned about in Breath of the Wild, the two have markedly different styles. Breath of the Wild's animalistic Zonai statues were replaced by more elegant stonework, which includes murals, twin dragons, lotus flower adornments, and Zonai writing, as well as the inclusion of mysterious automata. But another major change in Tears of the Kingdom is the apparent exclusion of Breath of the Wild's iconic Zonai Swirl. Besides a few that I found on some Korok block puzzles, I haven't experienced any swirls on the new Sky Islands or on Zonai ruins in the depths. The swirl itself has always been something of a mystery, with people speculating that its origins lie in everything from the crest of the Kokiri, wind crests of the Minish Cap's Wind Tribe, or the green swirling energy we've seen since the very first Tears trailer. But I believe Tears may have simultaneously solved this mystery while also explaining the absence of the swirl in the new Zonai structures. At the conclusion of the main quest known as the Dragon's Tears, where Link must travel across Hyrule visiting strange geoglyphs and the ancient memory containing dragon tears within them, a large white dragon known as the Light Dragon appears above him with a bellowing roar. The dragon sheds one final tear and Link must travel to the center of the Wrist Peninsula to reveal its secret. Look familiar? It is at this peninsula that Link learns the truth about the fate of Zelda, and it's quite shocking. In the ancient past, Zelda swallows a secret stone in a forbidden ritual known as draconification. She transforms into the Light Dragon, preserving herself for ages to come, while also providing a vessel to restore the shattered Master Sword using the light force contained within her body. At first, this chain of events may come across as ludicrous, random, and very un-Zelda-like. But as with many secrets in The Legend of Zelda, a closer look may reveal some surprising connections. The location of the final tier is peculiar. The Wrist Peninsula is located in the Akala Sea, far removed from the Great Plateau where Zelda performed the ritual or any of the other Zonai strongholds. But the peninsula itself is swirl-shaped, and while its name is Wrist in English, its Japanese name is a corruption of Uzumaki, the Japanese word for whirlpool. Tangentially, fans of the Naruto franchise will recognize this as the eponymous character's last name. Naruto himself gets his first name from the Japanese fish cakes called Naruto Maki, which are found in ramen dishes. These fish cakes have pink spirals, and they get their name from the Naruto whirlpools found in the Naruto Strait. So while its English name of wrist may not hold any special meaning, the fact that its Japanese name means whirlpool and the fact that it is spiral-shaped is telling. There is also the fact that the peninsula is located on the sea. But what does that, or any of this, have to do with the Zonai? As the series has evolved, it has drawn less and less inspiration on Western medieval fantasy and more on Eastern mythologies. And I believe the portrayals of dragons in Chinese and Japanese mythologies are the key to this mystery. I think the spiral shape of Wrist Peninsula represents these dragons' power, a power that the last surviving Zonai came to worship. Let's go through some of the characteristics and lore of these mythological dragons and examine the similarities to Tears of the Kingdom. One important note is that Japan imported Chinese dragons into their own mythology around the 7th century, so some of the discussion is interchangeable between the two cultures. Chinese dragons are said to be a composite of many creatures: the head of a camel, bull ears, eyes of a hare, the body of a snake, armor of a clam, the feet of a tiger, talons of an eagle, protective scales of a carp, and the antlers of a stag. In Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda, the Light Dragon, has the antlers of a stag. Chinese dragons wield the power of the elements, with their claws each representing different ones. Each dragon in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom represents a different element. Dinraal is fire, Naedra is ice, Farosh is lightning, and Zelda is light. In the mythology, dragons are shapeshifters and are capable of taking on human forms. In Tears of the Kingdom, not only does Zelda transform into a dragon, Minoru tells her it's a forbidden act, but in order for draconification to be a forbidden act, there must have been a history of it. In Chinese mythology, dragons conceal a large pearl in their throat, which may represent the sun, the moon, or the earth. In Japanese mythology, they also use dragon pearls, but in some stories they also use magic jewels that can control the tides. Zelda swallows a magic stone known as the Secret Stone in order to transform into a dragon. Bloopies apparently also do something similar when they swallow bubble gems, and Kilton talks about wanting to do the same. In the mythology, they can turn invisible, and we know from Breath of the Wild that most people can't see dragons, with the exception of Link and the Rito. They were aquatic beings, deities, and guardians of water sources, protecting them from harm. They were believed to reside in bodies of water such as rivers, lakes, and oceans. They possessed the ability to control the rain, clouds, storms, and all bodies of water, and whirlpools. Throughout history, people have revered dragons and appealed to them for abundant rains. This has even given rise to dedicated dragon cults. Fans who are familiar with Breath of the Wild's development will recall that the game's developers drew inspiration from Jomon pottery when designing the ancient Sheikah technology. During the Jomon period in Japan, the Azumi tribe, a warrior clan, worshipped Watatsumi, the dragon god of the sea. On page 413 of Creating a Champion, the companion book to Breath of the Wild, we learn that the mysterious warlike Zonai tribe worshipped a water dragon. This has always been something of a puzzle, because although Breath of the Wild introduced its 3 elemental dragons, none of them were specifically water dragons. Most theorists believe the spirit of lightning Farosh to be the best candidate, since it shares a home in Faerûn with the Zonai, and they also seem to have a connection with lightning. Speaking of lightning, the Japanese deity Susanoo, known as the god of the sea and storms, destroyed a dragon and pulled a sword from its body. That sword was said to be one of 3 sacred treasures known as the Imperial regalia of Japan, the other 2 being a mirror and a jewel. Zelda theorists have long connected these to items in the games, as each treasure represents a primary virtue similar to Zelda's virtues of courage, wisdom, and power. And with the sword representing the virtue of valor, another word for courage, it's easy to see why people believe it to be the real-world inspiration for Link's Master Sword, with Link of course being closely associated with the virtue and Triforce of courage. What's more is that in Tears of the Kingdom, Link pulls the Master Sword out of the Light Dragon's head. It seems much too similar to the Susanoo legend to be a coincidence. Dragons are the symbol of wisdom. They are associated with enlightenment and intellectual prowess. Chinese culture attributes the dragon as a symbol of intelligence, scholarship, and the pursuit of knowledge. The first queen of Hyrule, Sonia's name means wisdom, and in the Legend of Zelda series, Princess Zelda, who we now know is a descendant of Sonia, holds the Triforce of Wisdom and is closely connected to that virtue. Dragons are intimately linked to Imperial history, with myths stating that their offspring became rulers of China and Japan. Zelda is a member of the Hyrulean royal family, so it's fitting that her people have stories of draconification and that she becomes a dragon. Consider the mythology of the aforementioned Watatsumi, also known as Ryujin, the ultimate dragon god of Japanese mythology. His daughter is Toyota Mahime, whose name means Jewel Princess, and she is the maternal grandmother of the legendary first emperor of Japan. According to legends, Watatsumi, as the god and ruler of the sea, resided in a magical palace at the depths of the ocean. He is often depicted as a massive sea serpent wielding magic jewels which endow him with the ability to control the ebb and flow of the tides. Additionally, in some legends, the Dragon Palace is a place where time effectively stands still. And in Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda is the descendant of King Rauru, who also wields magic jewels and who built the Temple of Time, a place where time manipulation also takes place. Some elemental powers have been represented by swirls in the Legend of Zelda series for decades. Consider the various swirls in the Wind Waker, or these ones on this depiction of Elden Volcano in Skyward Sword. But Tears of the Kingdom takes it to a whole new level, with this mural of Rauru haloed by the powers of the other elemental sages all being represented by swirls. But I can't help but wonder if water was supreme all along. The mark of the goddess Nehru is closely tied to the Triforce of Wisdom and Princess Zelda, and yet the aquatic Zora tribe chose it of all symbols as their emblem. So perhaps Zelda chose a place named after whirlpools to enlighten Link of her fate as a dragon, because that was the most poignant way to connect everything together. The series continues to draw more on its native lore and mythology, which has water dragons high up in the pantheon of Japanese deities, and the whirlpool symbolizes their origins and connections to water. I believe the later Zonai, the ones who existed after Zelda transformed into a dragon, adopted her as their god after witnessing her ritual, and that's when and why the swirl became their symbol. Because of Tears of the Kingdom, we now know that the Typhlo ruins were built by Hylians to commemorate King Rauru and the sages who sealed Ganondorf, and thus it was built after Zelda transformed. This ruins complex is covered in Zonai Swirls, so I think it's likely the same can be said for all the other animalistic Zonai structures on the surface throughout Hyrule. And I believe that all those adorned with swirls were built by a second wave of Zonai who became barbaric in the absence of their Zonai royal family. Their emergence coincided with Zelda's transformation into a dragon in the ancient past, and she became their god. If you liked this theory, please consider following me on TikTok and subscribing on YouTube for more Zelda theories. I try to only talk about stuff that no one else is. I wrote this before even beating Tears of the Kingdom. I was too excited to wait any longer, so please let me know in the comments if there's anything in the game that contradicts this theory. It's still early in the analysis of this massive game, so there will be plenty more to follow. Thank you.